Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Wednesday morning. Hope everyone has had a great week as well. So, for those who are new, my name is Mitch Kanyaro, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, during this session, we as the Afriforex team wake up early in the morning, identify what trading opportunities we'll be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So remember, if you do have any questions, queries, or comments, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will be there to respond to you, but I will also be looking to address any questions or queries or comments on the chat box towards the end of the session. So we can jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with our watch list. So hope my screen is visible. So looking at our watch list, comparing yesterday and today, there's only been a slight change. As you can see, yesterday our focus was looking for buying opportunities on the Swiss franc, the New Zealand dollar, as well as the Australian dollar. And we're looking to mix and match all those pairs with the pairs on the sell side. So you can see that's the US dollar, Canadian dollar, the British pound, the yen, as well as the euro. So today, the only difference that's there on our watch list is the British pound, where yesterday it was on the sell side, but you can see today it has moved to the buy side. So that's basically the only change that we're going to be having as of right now. Now, in terms of fundamentals, we did end up starting a few minutes late because we did end up having a few British pound fundamentals, but we can clearly see as well, we also have some euro news later on during the London session. Then we have a bit of news during the US session, especially some high impact news on the Canadian dollar. We can see we do have some interest rate decisions coming out at around 4:45. So do watch out for that. That's going to be 15 minutes after the New York Stock Exchange does open. So we'll end up expecting some volatility, or at least some volatility during the US session today. So let's focus on the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. Before we end up having a look at one or two screenshots, then we will focus on today's pairs. So right here, we'll start off here with the British pound against Swiss franc. Now, on this currency pair, our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out. The price initially looked as if it had broken this area to the upside, but we do not want to sell until we get the price coming to the downside and falling below. But you can see, unfortunately, the price came to the downside, attempting to come down during the London market open. It could not necessarily breach that area, and you can see that support and resistance area did hold to the upside, and the price managed to continue going up higher. Now, we wouldn't want to see what kind of reaction we did get within the seller's area. Now, we did not necessarily see the sellers reacting there yesterday. There has been a probe today where you can see the price has gone to the upside and come back in. But unfortunately, this pair could potentially end up giving us issues today. And that's the reason why, unfortunately, it is going to be off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. And here our bias was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the sales worked out very well. You can see initially the price was so close within the buyer's area when John was presenting yesterday. You can see the price did manage to bounce off the buyer's area during the London session open. The price managed to get back within the main seller's area right there. And you can see we did manage to get a very nice selling opportunity during the London session all the way back down towards the buyer's area. But it's a similar situation between 3 and 4:30. That's when the market did end up turning to the upside, potentially going up higher, getting a better price than this. So unfortunately for us as well today, this is a pair that is going to be off our watch list, but we can clearly see the trade did work out quite well. Now, the next pair we did have was the British pound against the Australian dollar. And on this currency pair, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Now, the sell did work out, unfortunately, not within the area that we did want. You can see we did want the price to come back up within this seller's area. But you can clearly see it just mainly managed to get back within this most recent seller's area. The price managed to get within that particular area around midday or so. You can see the price did manage to come down during the London session. But similar situation as we did see with the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. At 4:30, the price is all the way down here at the bottom. You can see the price did manage to come to the upside. So unfortunately as well, today on the British pound against the Australian dollar, we will not be looking for selling opportunities on this currency pair today. So in terms of the review, that was it for those three pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. So in terms of screenshot, we did not necessarily get many. In fact, we only got one. And this was from Alvin. So Alvin, you did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity here on the British pound against the US dollar. Since this was a trade that we did end up, or at least were meant to present yesterday, so unfortunate for that. So apologies for that, sorry. You can see you did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity within the buyer's area. The price really came up in your favor. And you can see you did manage to take some good take profit right there. So remember the fact that we always mention, whenever you're managing your trades, where to move your stop loss. So you can see once you did end up entering your trade within here, chances are your stop loss was below that particular area. But once the price managed to make a new high, and you can see we've got a pullback, then these buyers right here started pushing to the upside. You could have been able to move your stop loss there. And you can see the next situation when the price came down, there was a push to the upside within that particular area. And you could have been able to actually move your stop loss there. But at least if you did end up managing to close your trade, still very, very well done on this trade output. So remember, guys, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share today, feel free to send them into us. Our contact details are in the video description below. Remember, you do not necessarily need to be the best trader to be able to send those screenshots. Remember, you will learn from losses in comparison to the good trades. So you end up making sure if you do manage to take any setups, or there's a setup you tried to take that did not work out and you need more explanation, feel free to send them into us. Our contact details are there in the video description. So let's focus on today's pairs. So we'll start off with the Swiss franc pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the sell side, then move on to the New Zealand dollar, then the Australian dollar, then move on to the British pound before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off with the Swiss franc pairs, we'll start off with the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, this is a currency pair we did have yesterday. Now, in this currency pair yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the 3 areas that John had pointed out. Now, we have adjusted the levels slightly, just moving them a bit lower, because you can see yesterday, the price was within this particular bias area. We did not necessarily get the sell. You can see the price managed to actually react, coming to the upside. It was only during the Asian session where you can see the price has managed to come to the downside. So this one would have been a bit difficult to get. But today, since we have adjusted the level slightly, we'll still be focusing on selling opportunities, but you can clearly see the area that we're at. We're within an area where there are buyers, so no selling opportunities just yet. We do have an SNR right here in the middle, as well as we have the main seller right here at the top. So as long as we're holding below the red SNR, our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see right now we're within an area where there are buyers, but the price has probed this area multiple times. You can see how far the market has been able to get to, spiking down all the way to this area, and you can see the price has still been able to go to the upside. So just because you're seeing the price has come down lower, don't necessarily think that this level has been fully breached yet. It could have, but we want to at least a bit more confirmation. So for us, or at least for me, what I would potentially be waiting for is the price coming back within this support and resistance area, potentially getting some sort of probe or price action signal for us to look for selling opportunities there. Now, if the price does manage to hold to the bottom of this area, you can potentially be able to look for selling opportunities where the price could end up coming down, but do watch out for this buyer's area. You can clearly see how many times the price has approached that an area and still managed to go all the way to the upside. So don't be surprised that that could potentially end up happening. But potentially, if you can get the price coming down and we do get proper confirmation it's holding below, then we should be able to find a very nice selling opportunity as well here on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So hope that's clear, at least on our game plan of what we're looking at doing on the US dollar against Swiss franc. As we move on to the next Swiss franc pair, and right here we have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. Similar situation, our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. We did want more of a pullback. Unfortunately, that did not happen. You can see the 3 areas that we had pointed out. But today we have adjusted the level slightly. So we will still be focusing on selling opportunities, but we will be looking at these 3 areas to look for those potential sells. So right now, you can clearly see the price does seem to be coming to the downside. So we definitely know that sellers are coming in strong, but we need confirmation that this level has actually been broken. You can clearly see a similar situation where the price has bounced off such an area before. It could end up doing it again. So we're going to see what ends up happening. Hopefully, we can get the price coming in and holding below for us to look for selling opportunities. Make sure you manage your trade within this area right there, because you can see the price can still potentially react. Unless we do get the price breaching and holding below that area, potentially we could end up continuing looking for selling opportunities. But remember, right now, the price could be in some sort of potential range. So if you find the price coming to the upside and holding above, then chances are we'll be looking for our selling opportunities within this particular seller's area for us to look for those selling opportunities there. So this situation right now, the prices do seem to be coming down. Potentially, it could be the Swiss franc showing us a lot of strength, but we will wait to see what ends up happening on this currency pair. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next Swiss franc pair we do have. So right here, we have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see there was a small buying opportunity right here within this particular area. This is just around the Frankfurt market open. But you can see the price attempted to shoot to the upside. Unfortunately, we did not necessarily get the price coming all the way to the top. You can see we did get within this small seller's area before the price managed to come to the downside. You can see during the US session at around 3 o'clock, the price, instead of going to the upside, it actually came down lower, held below. So at that point in time, there was no buying opportunity for us. But you can see the price has managed to come all the way down, back within the main bars area. You can see the price attempted to break this area to the downside, but has come up quite aggressive. So that's a very good sign for us, especially since we are going to be looking for buying opportunities. Remember, in order for us to buy, we need sellers to come in. If you do go to a shop, if they're not selling, you cannot necessarily buy. So in a similar situation with the Forex market, you can end up using that same logic, where if you want to buy, you need people who are actually selling. So right now, as the price was all the way at the top within this particular area, guaranteed most people were looking at this push to the upside, and they were looking for any buying opportunities as it was coming to the downside. But as soon as it came down lower than that particular area, and any person who was buying within this area got stopped out, there were enough sellers. So once people would end up getting stopped out, guaranteed majority of people are thinking at that point in time that the price is now for a sell, so it's going to go down. So the more sellers that we have, it is a good thing. So it's no surprise that the price has actually reacted within that particular area. So for right now, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities. But since the price has probed that area, hopefully we can end up getting this price coming back in within the support and resistance area for us to look for potential buying opportunities. Or alternatively, we could end up finding the price managing to continue going to the upside, especially if the sellers are not interested. You can get the price breaching and holding above this SNR area, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So I hope that is clear on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen as we move on to the next Swiss franc pair that we do have. So right here, we have the euro against the Swiss franc. Yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and it's still going to be the same situation today. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out to look for potential sells. And early in the morning, when John was discussing this market, the price was within the area where the sellers. So you can see at around 10 o'clock when the London market opened, the price did manage to come all the way down. So there was a selling opportunity there. You can see the buyer's A right there, where we did mention that you did need to manage your trade. And you can see the price back within this particular area was there at 3 p.m., which is the US market open. And you can see the US big boys did end up reacting, coming up for a better price. So it does seem as the price did manage to come to the downside. You can see this big push to the downside. We got a pullback within this particular SNR area. The price attempted to come down. The fact that we could not get the price coming down lower. In order for these big boys to continue selling, they need a better price than this. So it's no surprise that the price came up a bit higher, inciting all those people who are jumping in on sales to get stopped out. They had enough buyers, or at least the sellers got enough buyers to come in. And it's no surprise that the price has started coming down again during the Asian session. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. The areas are going to be the same in terms of looking for the sells. You can see the price does seem to be approaching this buyer's area. So for now, we wait to see what ends up happening. Hopefully, we can get the price coming in a bit higher, because hopefully we can end up getting this price coming in a bit within this particular support and resistance area for us to look for those selling opportunities. Reason being is you can see right here, we did end up getting the price coming to the upside. We just got the price coming back down. So the fact that this was just a probe, there's a high probability the price can come back within that area, and we could potentially see some sort of seller's reaction within that location. We'll wait to see what ends up happening here. For right now, definitely do not look for your selling opportunities. You can clearly see we're just in the middle of these two areas right here, just bang in the middle right there. So in order for us to sell, remember, it's always best to look for selling opportunities as close to the sellers as possible, or you can end up waiting for the price to break this buyer's area to the downside. In that pullback, you could potentially look for a selling opportunity to take the price down lower. But right now, we just need to be patient on this pair, and we wait to see what ends up happening on the euro against the Swiss franc. So hope that is clear on the euro against the Swiss franc, because you can see we'll mix and match the Swiss franc pairs with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now, we're going to move on to the New Zealand dollar and do the same thing. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias on this fancy pair was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today, although we have adjusted the level slightly. You can see the areas that were highlighted yesterday. What we wanted to see was more of a pullback coming in. Unfortunately, that did not end up happening. You can see the price managed to continue going to the upside. You can see these are the buyers who pushed up right there. They kept on holding to the market, and you can see the price continue to go up. Now, we did actually start getting the pullback during the US session once the price actually started coming down lower. And you can see the Asian big boys are attempting to push this price up higher. So today, the bus is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the area that we're at right now, or within an area where the sellers. So definitely do not look for your buying opportunities just yet. Wait to see one of two things happening on this guy's pair. Either this price is going to come down a bit lower. So maybe this price right here might not have been good enough. Might end up finding the price attempting to maybe give us some sort of probe or price action signal within there. Incite a few people to look for selling opportunities as the price is coming down lower before we potentially see those buying opportunities coming in. Or alternatively, you might find that these sellers are not really strong within that particular area. And if we can get the price breaching and holding above this location, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. But remember, our bus is going to be looking for buying opportunities as long as we're holding above the red SNR. If we do get the price breaching and holding below this red SNR, then at that point in time, this pair will fall off our watches. So let's move on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have. Now, this pair did work out quite well. It seems that the Canadian dollar pairs did end up showing that weakness that we did want yesterday. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out to look for those potential buying opportunities. Now, the price did not necessarily give us more of a pullback that we did want, but you can see the price managed to actually break this area to the upside. And you can see there was a small hold. When the price broke to the upside, you can see the price gave us confirmation it was holding above. And this was just before the US market opened. As you can see, 3 o'clock, that's when the price really did take off to the upside. So this trade worked out quite well, going above. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that we have identified where the buys could potentially work out from. You can see we have a problem area right there at the top. We have this main SNR that was broken to the upside, and we do end up having the main bias all the way down here at the bottom. So remember, as long as we're holding above the red SNR, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. So in terms of our game plan, let's hope to see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in within this support and resistance area. See what kind of reaction we do end up getting within the bias area here. So remember, we want to see strong buyers reacting, and that will give us a clue that the buyers are actually interested within this area. If you do not see any strong buyers coming in, then do not look for a trading opportunity there. Remember, the price can come all the way down to the bottom area right here, but we also have a small buyers area. Remember, we always mention buy with buyers and sell with sellers. So potentially the price is not able to react within this first support and resistance area. Be aware that the price can still come towards this blue SNR, have some sort of reaction within there. And if we do see the buyers reacting within that location, then we definitely know we could be able to look for buying opportunities there. So wait to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar, but I hope the game plan is clear on what we're going to be looking at today. So the next currency pair we do have is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. Unfortunately, the buys did not really work out quite well for us. It seems that they mainly worked out during the Asian session, because you can see once the Asian session did open, that's when the price went to the upside. But as soon as the London session came in, you can clearly see there was hardly any activity due to the fact that the market was still reacting within those two levels. Now, later on during the Asian session, we are now officially getting our pullback, which is definitely what we want to see. Because remember, in order for us to buy, we need sellers coming in, meaning we need the market to start giving us lower lows and lower highs. More people start jumping in on selling opportunities, the lower it is. And we'll wait to see at what point in time the buyers will actually end up showing up and the sellers will actually slow down. So we'll still be focusing on the same areas that we did end up having yesterday, still looking for these buying opportunities. So let's hope to see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in lower within either this first support and resistance area. We'll see what kind of reaction we do end up getting within here. Hopefully, we do end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal within this location for us to look for those buying opportunities. But be aware, if we do not see any reaction within this location, the price can still come back down all the way till the red SNR. Remember, as long as we're holding above this red support and resistance area, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. So hope that's clear on the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen as we move on to the next and last New Zealand dollar pair we do have. So right here on the euro against the New Zealand dollar, our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities, and it is still the same situation today. You can see we have adjusted the level slightly, where we were hopefully, or at least we're hoping to see some sort of pullback coming in yesterday. But you can see this market has been grinding down lower and lower, hardly giving up the ball, because you can see the way the sellers keep on pushing to the downside. They've kept on coming down lower. It's only right now during the Asian session today that we are actually starting to get our higher highs, meaning we are getting our pullback coming in. But although if you were still able to look for selling opportunities yesterday, it might have been a bit difficult, especially since we had our support and resistance area right here. We did get the price breaching and holding below. but it might have been a bit difficult to get because you can clearly see later on the price did manage to continue going to the upside. So today the bias is going to be looking for sells, still similar situation to yesterday. Our levels have been adjusted slightly. So overall, we will be looking for selling opportunities based on these three areas of interest. So right now we are getting the pullback, which is definitely what we want. Remember, follow the story of where the buyers are pushing. So if you can follow the way the buyers are pushing to the upside, you can see those buyers pushed up there. Then you can see as the price is going on and you're following the story, you can clearly see situations like this. Don't be excited about the price coming down lower because you are aware that these are the buyers who are still holding the ball. So you can clearly see the price is still going to the upside. So hopefully we can end up getting this price coming down lower. So remember, if we do end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal, it incites a few people to look for buying opportunities and stops them out when the price comes down lower. We do get the price holding below this area, we could potentially end up looking for selling opportunities within the top there to come down lower. But remember, if you do want to be a bit more conservative, if you follow the story of the buyers, you can end up waiting for once that buyer is reached, wait for that pullback to come in, and you can be able to look for a bit more conservative trade within that location. But at least that trade will give you less issues as the price is coming to the downside. So wait to see what ends up happening. Remember, the price can still come back up all the way till the red SNR since the buyers have not yet given up the ball. We'll wait to see what ends up happening. The price comes back within the red SNR and we do end up seeing some sort of global price action signal, or the buyers who are pushing to the upside are taken out, then we could potentially look for selling opportunities there. So I hope the game plan is clear on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. You can see we mix and match the Swiss franc and the New Zealand dollar with the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to do the same thing with the Australian dollar, then move on to the British pound pairs. So starting off with the Australian dollar pairs, we have the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. Unfortunately, the buys did not work out because you can clearly see the price did manage to continue going up during the Asian session. But during the London session and the US session, nothing much happened. As you can clearly see, the price was just ranging, bouncing between these two levels. It's only during the Asian session that we're officially starting to get our pullback coming in. But it's a similar story as we wait to see whether or not we can end up getting our buying opportunities within the same areas that we do end up having, or at least did have yesterday. We have this conservative area right here in the middle. So wait to see what ends up happening as the price comes down lower. Hopefully can get back within that support and resistance area for us to look for buying opportunities. Remember, follow the story of where the sellers are pushing down from. So in this situation, you can see the sellers push down from there. Next push was from there. The next push does seem to be within this area because you can clearly see these are the sellers who managed to come down within here. And since then, the price has not been able to actually break that area. You can see those sellers right here are still holding. So don't necessarily start thinking that the price is going to go to the upside right now. Within a small seller's area, and you could easily see the price coming down a bit lower for us to potentially look for some sort of probe or price action signal within this area for us to look for those buying opportunities. So for right now, we'll be patient and wait to see what ends up happening. Follow the story right now. Do not jump in on your buying opportunities just yet. Hopefully, we can end up getting this price coming down a bit lower before we're able to look for those buying opportunities coming in. So hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at doing on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. As we move on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have. So right here, we have the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar. We have seen the Canadian dollar pairs did work out quite well yesterday. You can clearly see the three areas that John had pointed out. Now, initially, we did want to end up looking for those buying opportunities, but the price was within an area where they're sellers. So we did want a pullback coming in. Unfortunately, could not get all the way to the main buyers that we did end up wanting. You can see the price came down lower. They actually within a small buyers area there, or this small support and resistance area, before the price did manage to continue reacting and going to the upside. So this trade worked out quite well. Must have been a bit difficult to get because that was around midday. That's when the price did actually start turning to the upside. But today, the bias here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. So we will be focusing on these three areas of interest to look for our potential buying opportunities. So right now, we are getting a pullback. Can see the price is going to the upside. We are getting the price coming down lower, which is a good thing for us. Because remember, in order for us to sell, in order for us to buy, we need sellers. So you can clearly see the story of the sellers as they're pushing down lower, manage to come down lower. Even if you focus on this seller right here, you can clearly see these are the sellers who are holding the market. And remember, the reason why we always encourage wait for a pullback and confirmation a level has been reached. So if you are focusing on this seller's area and you did see the price coming up aggressive, if you just jumped in on your buying opportunity there or even at the top, you could easily get stopped out within that area. So remember, always wait for confirmation within these locations. Potentially, you could end up getting the price coming to the upside. If we are able to get this price breaching above this area, wait for that pullback. If the price holds above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities there. But for right now, we could easily find the price maybe even coming down a bit lower or attempting to come down lower. Therefore, we do end up finding some sort of global price action signal before we do find the price going to the upside. In this situation, we wait to see what ends up happening. But right now, be wary about the sellers who are pushing down lower. If the price comes down lower, we'll wait to see what ends up happening. You can see, if I do end up giving you a clear example when this price was coming to the upside, you can clearly see when the price was coming up, you would be able to follow the story of the buyers pushing to the upside. You can see these were the buyers pushing. As soon as the buyers who are pushing to the upside are breached and the price confirms that it's holding below, you can clearly see you do end up getting some trading opportunities there for the price to come down lower. So that's the reason why you can be able to follow the story. As the sellers are coming down, wait for the price to be breached to the upside before you're actually able to look for those buying opportunities. That's ideally a conservative way you can be able to look for entries, but we do end up teaching more of that in the AMP course. So remember, if you do want more education, or at least figuring out exactly how to look for those entries, either aggressive or conservative, feel free to reach out to us, or you could end up going to our website, www.afriforex.com. You should be able to get more information there on the Academy section. So moving on to the next Australian dollar pair here, we do have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, yesterday our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out. Now, the price initially in the morning looked as if it was attempting to break this area to the upside. Remember what we always say, we want to get confirmation that the price is holding above for us to look for those buying opportunities. As you can see, even John's illustration right here, unfortunately, that did not happen. So you can clearly see the other option was the price could end up coming down lower, potentially coming back down within the main buyer's area for us to look for those buying opportunities. Unfortunately, could not necessarily get all the way there. You can see it did end up coming back in this small support and resistance area, had some small reaction there before the price attempted to come up higher. But similar situation, you can see even then, after it did end up getting that push to the upside, we were not able to break this area above. You can clearly see a very nice probe where the price attempted to come to the upside, but actually came down lower. And you can see the pullback coming in, confirming that that level has been actually holding. You can see the fact that the price is coming down lower today. So it's a similar story where our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities, still focusing on the same areas that we did end up having yesterday. So right now, we can see the price is coming down low, which is a good thing for us. Remember, in order for us to buy, we need sellers coming in. So it's a similar story here. You can be able to follow the story of the sellers as they're coming down lower. You can see the next push of the seller is right there. Right now, the most recent seller is right here. So even if you do end up getting the price coming up and holding above this area, you can end up waiting or at least grabbing a buying opportunity here, especially if it holds above. But if you do want to be a bit more conservative, you can end up waiting for that breach and the price to hold above for you to be able to also look for buying opportunities there. Now, for right now, we can clearly see the sellers are coming down. This price might still be able to continue coming down all the way till the red SNR. So remember, follow the story of the sellers. So if you do end up seeing something similar like this, where the price comes down lower, then it comes down. So let me just give a small example. So if you do end up seeing something like that, then you'll be following the story with the seller, following where is the seller pushing down from. And at the point where the price is actually able to break that area to the upside and hold above, you can potentially look for buying opportunities there. But remember, if it breaks and holds below this red support and resistance area, this pair will fall off our watch list and we will no longer be looking for buying opportunities here. So hope the game plan is clear and what we're looking at doing on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen as we move on to the next and last Australian dollar pair we do have, which is the euro against the Australian dollar. Now, the euro pairs do seem to be quite correlated. We did end up seeing the same thing with the euro against the New Zealand dollar. The price kept on grinding down lower. We were within an area where there are buyers, but the buyers did not necessarily show up. You can clearly see the sellers were still holding the price down lower, and the price managed to continue going down lower. You can see there was a small selling opportunity, although it might have been a bit difficult to get, because you can see once the price broke to the downside, sorry, apologies. So once the price broke to the downside, you can see there was a small hold within there. If you do note the time, that was at exactly 3 o'clock during the US market open. Price was able to come down lower. It's a similar situation at 4:30 during the New York Stock Exchange open. That's when the prices actually started turning and going to the upside. So today, the bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. The levels have been adjusted slightly. So overall, our red SNR is right here at the top. So as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So right now, it's definitely on the pullback. phase. So we're going to see at what point in time these bars are actually going to die out. So hopefully we can end up getting the price coming back in, maybe holding below for us to look for those selling opportunities. Could end up watching out, as you can clearly see right now, the buyer who is pushing to the upside is right there. So you could end up either waiting for that breach to the downside in the price to hold for you for a more conservative entry, or you could end up still waiting for a pullback once the price managed to come back in and hold within this area. But remember, these buyers still end up giving you a bit of risk. That's the reason why this other trade ends up being more conservative and does end up giving you less issues. So wait to see what ends up happening. Remember, the price can still come back all the way to the red SNR, and we will still be looking for those selling opportunities. So I hope the game plan is clear, at least on the euro pairs, as you can see, on the Australian dollar pairs. As you can see, we mix and match these three pairs with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to move on to the next and last currency pair we do have, which are the British pound pairs, before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. Now, a number of these British pound pairs are brand new on our watch list, so that's okay. So here we'll start off here with the British pound against the US dollar. Now, yesterday our bias was to look, today our bias is to look for buying opportunities. These are the areas that we had identified earlier in the morning. It seems that this price does seem to be coming up a bit aggressive, which is okay. Remember, if the price is actually going to break that area to upside, we want confirmation the price is actually going to hold above this area for us to continue looking for buying opportunities. But be aware this level has not been confirmed in terms of being a breach. Could easily find the price coming back in and holding below. We could end up waiting for the price coming down a bit lower before we're able to look for those buying opportunities within this support and resistance area. It does seem that potentially it could be the US dollar that's showing a lot of weakness, because remember, when we end up having a look at the other US dollar pairs, you can see the US dollar against the Swiss franc, but within the area where they're biased, but we do seem to be attempting to break that area to the downside. We can end up looking at other US dollar pairs. We can clearly see showing us a lot of weakness, but within an area where the sellers, a similar situation here with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So we know it wouldn't be a surprise if we do find the price actually be able to go to the upside, because it does seem that the US dollar is showing us a lot of weakness. But for right now, we'll wait to see. Hopefully, we can get that pullback coming in. If it holds above, we'll continue looking for those buying opportunities. If it does not hold above, then chances are we'll wait to see for the price to come down a bit lower, hopefully within this blue SNR. Or remember, watch out for the market opening times. So it might not necessarily get within this support and resistance area, but you find that it's within this, let's say, for example, right here, or within one of these areas where there are buyers, and you find the market there either at 3 or at 4:30, you could end up finding the market actually reacting within one of those areas. So do be careful about the timing. First of all, the location of where you're going to look at for the trade, as well as the actual time that you're actually going to look for your trading opportunity. That does end up increasing your trading probability. So we wait to see what ends up happening here on the British pound against the US dollar. We move on to the next British pound pair we do have. Right here, we have the British pound against the Canadian dollar. We can see that weakness that really did come in on all the Canadian dollar pairs. So today, it's a brand new entry on our watch list. Since remember, both the British pound and the Canadian dollar were both on the same side of our watch list yesterday. So today, the bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. But you can clearly see the area that we're at, but within an area where the sellers. So definitely no buying opportunity just yet. Hopefully, we can end up getting this price coming back in lower. Hopefully, within this support and resistance area, for us to potentially look for those buying opportunities. Because you can see right now, at the moment, the price has not actually given us any pullback. Remember, if you're pulling the story of how the buyers are pushing to the upside, so you can see as they go up higher, they push the upside there, and still not once have they even started giving us lower lows and lower highs. So until they do that, that's when we definitely know the pullback is started. And once we do end up seeing that, we know sellers are being excited. So right now, we do not want to buy when the price is so high up. And you can clearly see the strength of the buyers has really slowed down. You can see the way they started to the upside, the big pushes to the upside. The next push was a slightly slower, next push slightly slower, but you can see they are losing that steam and that energy that they did have based on the way they're pushing to the upside. You can see big moves to such small moves as it keeps on going higher. Right now, hopefully, can end up getting those sellers coming in. So you remember, even though we say buy with buyers and sell with sellers, one key factor also is we also want to buy with strong buyers and sell with strong sellers. You do not necessarily want to buy when the price is so high up. Because remember, what the big boys are doing, if they did end up buying all the way down here, you need to also picture if you are also a big boy and you bought down here, when the price is all the way at the top, would you still be looking for buying opportunities up here, or would you be looking to close your trade right there? So big boys' chances are going to be closing their trades, taking some profit, and you could end up finding the pullback coming in. which is definitely what we want to see. So hope the game plan is clear on the British pound against Canadian dollar. We move on to the next British pound pair that we do have. So right here, we have the British pound against the Japanese yen. Brand new entry on our watch list. And here our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that we have identified where the buys could potentially work out from. Right now, we're in the middle of these two areas. So definitely nothing for us to do just yet. We need more of a pullback coming in, or the price actually showing us that it's going to go to the upside. So wait to see how this pullback comes in. Hopefully, we end up getting some sort of global price action signal within this SNR for us to look for those buying opportunities. But remember, the price can come back down all the way to the red SNR for us to look for those buys. Now, for those who have done the one-on-one and AMP FX courses, be aware of also this blue SNR. I know you know why, but we could end up seeing some sort of reaction within that area as well. So wait to see how far this pullback comes in. Because remember, right now, the sellers are definitely still strong. You can see the way the buyers are pushing to the upside. They are still holding, but once the price is broken to the downside, you can see the confirmation, and you can see the sort of reaction we are getting from the sellers. So if you follow the story of the sellers, you can clearly see we are still pushing to the downside. So wait to see how far these sellers are going to come down lower before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So hope the game plan is clear on the British pound against the Japanese yen. Let's move on to the next and last British pound pair we do have, which is the euro against the British pound. Here we have the brand entry on our watch list, and our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So right now we can see the price does seem to be coming up higher, but that's something to do with the euro pairs. Remember, we had a look at the other euro pairs where not once have they actually given us a pullback for like the past 2 or 3 days. You can also see the story of the way the sellers kept on pushing. They kept on holding the market coming to the downside. Not once have they given up the ball until right now we're actually starting to get a pullback. And we have seen that on all other euro pairs. You can see the euro against Australian dollar had been coming down. It's only during the Asian session that we're starting to get our pullback. You can see a similar situation with the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So you definitely can see that correlation. So you know that this is definitely something to do with the euro pairs. So for right now, we'll wait to see what ends up happening, how far these buyers are going to get to before we're able to look for selling opportunities. We could end up finding the price coming back in, holding below. If we do end up getting aggressive sellers, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities. Apologies for that. So hopefully we can end up getting this price coming back in, holding below for us to look for those selling opportunities within that area. But remember, you can end up finding the price coming back all the way to the red SNR. What you should end up doing right now, don't just start jumping in on sells. You can follow the story of the buyers. And right now, this buyer is really strong, pushing to the upside. So right now, do be a bit patient. Let's wait to see how far the buyers are going to come in before we're able to look for those selling opportunities here on the euro against the British pound. So hope that is clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off with the NAS 100. Now, yesterday our bias, so let me just zoom out a bit. Yesterday our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today. Now the areas we have are still going to be the same areas that we're going to be looking at today. But I will end up going quickly to a higher time frame to be able to get a clearer picture of what exactly is happening. Because these markets have moved quite aggressively to the upside, or at least there's a lot of indecision with the indices right now. So if I do end up going up to the higher time frame, it will be much clearer. You can clearly see the way the price has been coming down, or at least the story of price. Ideally, that's one thing we really teach within the courses. The price had been coming to the downside, lower, lower. You can see we made a low within that area. We got the price giving us a pullback, and the sellers attempted to come down lower, but we were not able to make any new low. Now, the reaction of the buyer did end up coming up quite aggressive, coming back to challenge the main seller right here, or at least within this particular area. And you can see the last time the market was able to come, or at least the sellers were able to come all the way down within this area. But this time you can see the push only came down within the support and resistance area. The buyers came up again. And right now the sellers are starting to look way weaker. If you compare how they came down the first time, how they came down the second time, and how they're coming down now, you can clearly see these sellers are actually slowing down. They're not necessarily giving that much of a discount anymore. So there's a high probability that this price, or at least once it does end up getting to a certain point, the price will actually continue going to the upside. And especially if we're able to break the main seller's area right there at the top and the price holds above, then chances are we should be able to continue going to the upside. But for right now, we do need to be a bit patient because you can clearly see not much happened even yesterday when the price was actually just ranging between these two levels. The big boys not necessarily do anything, or at least there was a lot of indecision yesterday. hopefully we can end up getting this price coming in lower, at least maybe within the support and resistance area for us to look for those buying opportunities. You can see the area that John had pointed out yesterday. We're hoping to see the buys reacting within that area. The buys hardly reacted, and we have managed to end up getting a better price. So wait to see what ends up happening for right now. But this pair, we do need to be a bit patient. As the sellers are coming down, we want to see at what point in time the buyers are actually going to come back in. Remember, as I pointed out, within all these other pairs, you can be able to follow the story of the sellers, looking at where the sellers are pushing down from. So you can see right now, the main seller who is pushing down is this seller right here. So do watch out for that seller. As long as the price is coming down or holding within that level, the pullback is still coming in. If by any chance you see the price managing to come to the upside and holding above that area, then chances are you could be able to actually look for buying opportunities there. Whether or not it manages to react within this particular area, because we have seen this market, we are expecting the price to actually push to the upside, but we do not know at what point in time. We do know that since this is dealing with the indices and it's mainly active during the US session, we do not necessarily have a lot of US dollar fundamentals today. We do have some retail inventories, but not necessarily much is going to happen today for the US, or at least the US dollar. But at least tomorrow, we do end up having a lot of high impact news, the jobless claims, the housing starts. So this could end up being the main key factor, or at least the key push to when this market, or at least one of these indices, could end up starting to push to the upside. But we'll wait and see. We will be patient. We will wait to see how far this pullback is going to come back in before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So hope that's clear on the NASDAQ. And it's pretty similar game plan with the US 30 or the Dow Jones. You can see the same story. So here on the 1 hour time frame, our bias is to look for buying opportunities. We do know the main bias right there. We have another bias area that did push to the upside. So it's a similar story based on how you're seeing the sellers reacting. The first time they came down, they managed to get within this area. We got a pullback. They attempted to come down, could not, and you can see the buyers definitely showed that they were interested. Now back within the sellers area, you can see they attempted their first push, the buyers gave, or at least pushed it back up. Right now, look at the way the seller does seem to be struggling coming down. So it's definitely a good sign for us, at least for us to look for those buying opportunities, but we are starting to see the sellers struggling. But the point is trying to figure out at what point in time to actually start jumping on those buying opportunities. So if you do end up going back down to the 15 minutes, or at least since you're able to see the bigger story, yesterday, as you can clearly see, nothing much happened. But right now, we still want to see potentially if we can get this price coming down within this blue SNR. So you can see this is an area that it did end up reacting from before. We could end up potentially seeing it reacting within this area. So we could end up either seeing the price reacting within this location, or we could end up finding the price actually giving us the main pullback that we did want to see yesterday, coming back within the support and resistance area for us to look for those buying opportunities. So wait to see what ends up happening here. The levels are pretty much the same to look for those buying opportunities. We have this SNR here. We have the main red SNR right here at the bottom. So I know it does seem a bit wide, but ideally we just follow the story of what price is telling us. So sometimes it ends up being very small because the markets are not necessarily very active. But sometimes when there's a lot of volatility in the markets, the levels do end up getting bigger. But that doesn't change the fact that we will still be looking for buying opportunities. And remember, as I pointed out within the story, you can be able to follow the story of how the sellers are pushing to the downside. So you can see as the price was going up higher, we managed to actually start getting the price coming down lower. You can see these are the sellers who are pushing to the downside. So you can be able to follow the story of the sellers as they're coming down and wait for that level, or at least those sellers to actually reach to the upside for you to actually be able to look for those buying opportunities. So let's say, for example, if it does end up working within here and you find the price actually showing, or at least showing aggression, and it manages to come to the upside and you see the price coming, giving us a pullback, and it does hold above, we could find some buying opportunities there. But remember, watch out for the market opening times. That's 9, which is the Frankfurt market open, 10 o'clock is the London market open, 3, the US market open, and 4:30 being the New York Stock Exchange open. So do end up watching out for those particular times, as you could find some nice trading opportunities on these kinds of pairs. So as we move on to the next pair that we do have, so right here we have silver. Now on silver yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today to look for the buys, although we have adjusted the top level slightly. Main reason being is the fact that the price was not necessarily giving us a big reaction yesterday. It seems that the big boys were not very interested in the charts, or at least we're waiting to see what is going to happen. because you can't clearly see the reaction of how the price did end up reacting. It was only just bouncing between these two levels within there. No real big movement either to the upside or to the downside. But we have adjusted the top level slightly because yesterday we did have the level slightly a bit lower within that area. We did not necessarily get a full breach within that area. So we have identified that this is a particular high that we do need to watch out for. And you can clearly see today is when we're actually managing to get the price breaching, holding above within this area. It's around 9 o'clock during the Frankfurt market open. We are seeing the price attempting to come to the upside. So overall, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. Do not jump in on your buying opportunities just yet. Do not be surprised if the price actually ends up doing something like this, coming back within the main bias area for us to look for those buying opportunities. But for right now, as the price is going to the upside, we wait to see if we can get hopefully a pullback coming in and it falls above, then potentially we could end up looking for a buying opportunity. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because it would not be safe looking for a buying opportunity right now. Right now, all the late, or at least the 95% of traders who lose are jumping in on the buying opportunities there. Do be patient, wait for that pullback, wait for a bit of confirmation before we're able to look for those buying opportunities, or at least continue looking for buying opportunities here on silver. So hope that is clear, at least on what we're looking at doing on this current pair, at least on silver. As we move on to the next last pair that we do have, which is gold. Now, on gold yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. Now, this one did end up working out quite well. So you can see the three areas that John had pointed out. We're hoping to see some sort of reaction within here. We did see some small reaction within the buyers during the London session, but it's a similar story. So if I do end up coming within this area right here, you can be able to see the sellers right here. They managed to end up pushing to the downside. Still, when the price ended up coming to the upside, do not start jumping in on buying opportunities. You can clearly see how it's very easy for people to get stopped out, especially if since the price ended up giving us a probe, price ended up coming down lower, coming back still within the same buyer's area. So if you're following the story of how the sellers were pushing down within that area, you can see these are the sellers. So if I just do this, you can see these are the sellers who are pushing to the downside. Every time the price kept on coming down, these were the sellers who are reacting. But as soon as the price was able to break and hold above that area, even though this was around 9 o'clock or 9 p.m. yesterday, you can clearly see if you did end up looking for a buying opportunity there, you would have been much, much safer with that buying opportunity to take it to the upside. So that's the reason why we always encourage, wait for that pullback, follow the story of the sellers. And once the seller is actually done, that's when you actually are meant to look for those buying opportunities. So you can see the price has really gone up today during the Asian session. So our bias is going to still be looking for buying opportunities. We have identified this level earlier in the morning, but it does seem it's attempting to break that area to the upside, which is okay. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll start jumping in on buying opportunities just yet, because remember, we do need to be patient with these pairs. So right now, the price is all the way to the upside. There's nothing for us to do. The main thing for us, we want to see, hopefully, either the price that comes in holds above, there's potential for the price to go to the upside. But for us, at least for me, to be more comfortable, I would think I would rather wait for more people to be incited to look for those selling opportunities. Once the sellers give up the ball and the price comes back in maybe this major SNR area, because you can see this is definitely a big SNR area that was breached to the upside, we could potentially see the price coming back in that area before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. But for right now, it will not be advisable to start jumping on buying opportunities here, because as soon as you buy here, now you'd have to start going to a higher time frame. You realize the 1 hour is not big enough. You start going to the 4-hour time frame, just looking for where is the price potentially going to get to. But it doesn't really work like that. Remember, the best thing to do, wait for the pullback. It does end up giving you some better risk to reward, and it will keep you in the market for much, much longer. So that is it for all the current pairs, including gold and silver, as well as the indices. So let me see if there are questions on the chat box, which I'm not seeing any, which is okay. Remember, today in terms of fundamentals, we do have a bit of fundamentals coming out later on today. We have some Euro news coming around midday, as well as some high impact news for the Canadian dollar. Remember, we do have some interest rate news coming in. So we do end up expecting some good volatility both during the London as well as the US session. So for the London session, probably around midday, we could end up finding the markets moving, but it's a similar situation. You can't see the timings. So probably, even though we mentioned the US session being 3 and 4:30, also watch out for when the news events do end up coming out. You can see at 3:30, that's when you could end up finding a movement. At 4:30 is usually also a time once the New York Stock Exchange opens, but you can see today, do watch out for 4:45, because we do have some interesting news and you could end up expecting the markets moving at that time. So I guess that's it from me and from us. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hope you have found value in this session. Remember, guys, if you want to take any setup based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are in the video description. If you do want more detail and education on how to actually look for those trading opportunities, how to actually get some nice trades, or knowing when to actually buy and when to sell to improve on your timing, feel free to reach out to us, or at least go to our website, afriforex.com. Go to the Academy section. You can be able to find all our courses available there. So once again, thank you guys so much. Hope you have an amazing trading day. God bless. Happy trading. And bye for now. Cheers, guys.